Hi, so I'm Dreyer, founder of the Wealth Creators University, and welcome to another Wealth Insights training session. And in this training session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to design your own money-making machine and the reason why you're going to design it. And then I'm going to also introduce you to the formula for riches and then show you how to use this formula for riches in the design of your money-making machine in order to take you through the 7 levels of your business as quickly as possible. Right, so, and also what I'd like to do is to show you that the higher you move up, in other words, what we want to do is to double your income, but at the same time to work less, and that is the purpose of the 7 levels. So if we look at financial freedom, it's not only supposed to give you financial freedom, but also the time freedom, because time to me is one of the most important commodities that I've got, and I want to optimize the time. So I want to spend as little time as possible to create a business, and then as little time as possible to maintain that business, so that that business can give me life experiences where I can do the things because I've got the time freedom to do it. And then there's another freedom that I think is very important, and that is the mental freedom, because unless we're going to manage our state that we're in, it's going to be very difficult to sustain and maintain this momentum that we've got in order to have a life of total and absolute abundance. So where on earth are we going to start? We always start with one place, and that is your goal. You need to know what is it that you want, because unless you know this, nothing is going to work. So you need to have the intent and to define that and know exactly and precisely what you want. Now, how are we going to achieve our goal? In my case, for this challenge that I'm busy with, I'm going to take R1 or $1 and I'm going to turn it into 1 million. That is the intent. That is the goal. And if I've achieved that, I know that it's okay. In other words, I want a growth rate of at least 100 million% within a year, and I want to do all of this within a year. That is the ideal. That is what I'm going to go for. So in order to do that, I need to start generating income. For that reason, I need to build a machine that is going to give me that. So the next thing then will be my machine that I'm going to build. Okay? Now, in order to build my machine, before I start building my machine, I need to do first to design it. Because I see a lot of people start building their machine, but it costs a lot of money to build this thing, and unless the design is right, there's going to be a problem. So in the design, I need to keep a couple of things into consideration. The first one will be the formula for riches. So how can I use this and optimize this in designing my machine? The second thing that I need to do is the business blueprint, so that I can incorporate the formula for riches in the business blueprint to give me, in the shortest possible time, to take me from R1 to financial freedom, if that is the goal. Once the design is right, so the design portion is right, then I'm going to build my money-making machine, right? This is the tactical execution in terms of what's going to happen. Now, perhaps there's something else that I need to explain to you. Why is it that so few businesses really succeed? If you take a track record of businesses, you're going to find that 50% of all the business startups, and I mean official startup, where they can go to a bank or a financial institution, they give them the business plan, and they get money, and then 50% of those businesses, registered businesses, will fail within the first year. 80%, according to Dun & Bradstreet, will fail within the first 5 years. So the first year is the biggest risk, and I'm busy explaining to you that risk and why that is. So 80% will fail within the first 5 years. That means there's 20 businesses that's still in operation after 5 years. But if we look another 5 years, then out of that 20, 80% will fail. In other words, a total of 96% of all businesses, startup businesses, will fail within the next 10 years. Why do you think is that? Well, first of all, we've got a problem that there's an inner game and an outer game, and people do not know how to play the inner game. And then secondly, because of the skill sets, because of the competency, people do not have the skill sets. They do not have the blueprints, and then they do not know how to apply the blueprints. So if we look at the business, we all have ideas. So if you take the idea as the core, that is the idea. But if you really look at the core, you're going to find that that makes up approximately 2 to 3% of the total success that this business is going to have. Right, that's all. Only about 3%. And the reason for that is not difficult to find, because everyone's got ideas. Everyone has got this multi-million-dollar idea, but very few of those multi-million-dollar ideas will eventually happen. So the next portion is this portion, and this will be the strategy. But the strategy in itself is only going to play another approximately 17%. So you can have brilliant strategies and still not be successful in business. This is where most people do not make it. And then the third layer plays an 80% role in your business success. And this is the tactical implementation of these strategies. And when we look at the business, we're going to find that there's approximately 9 different strategies that we can apply. Now, all of these strategies basically happens, there's a blueprint, and now we have to implement that blueprint. And the problem is with the implementation of the blueprint. That is where the problem lies. So the strategy plays an incredible role, because if you've got the wrong strategy, you're not going to make it. But the implementation of that strategy is a lot more. And this is what happens here when you start building this money-making machine. So perhaps what I need to do is to get rid of this. So let me quickly get that out of the way, because otherwise I won't be able to explain to you what I want to explain to you. And that is, once that is in place, then the next thing that I need to do is to get the people in order to manage this machine, because this machine now has got systems, it's got processes, procedures, and I need to get people, because I want to get out of this rat race. I do not want to spend, I do not want to do the work. I'm the business owner. I want to be at the level 7, okay? And at the level 7, I do not want to spend a lot of time in my business, but I want a very successful business so that I do not have to work anymore. That is the ideal. In other words, it's going to give me time freedom. And the function of the people will be then, of course, to manage that machine on your behalf, or help you to run this machine. And that is then going to give me a result, or results. And if the result is what I want, then I know no problem. If I do not get the result, it simply means there's a problem with my machine or with my goal. And if there's a problem with my machine, it can be only in the design or in the implementation of that, or with the people that is busy helping me to run my machine on my behalf. It's really that simple. And by now we know that there's 2 things that we need to manage. The first one is the state that we're in. And the second thing, and this happens, the state is on a moment to moment. And the second thing is we must have the blueprints, and the blueprint is the long term, and we need to manage the blueprints. And once we build this machine according to the blueprint, and the blueprint, I'm going to give you the 7 critical steps that we need to take in order to start a business. In other words, to turn 1 rand into 1 million by using a business. Right, now that we've got this, and we've got a basic understanding, we're going to design the money-making machine. I'm going to give you the blueprints of that money-making machine in the webinar. So please make sure that you attend it, because I'm going to give you the blueprint of exactly the step-by-step, what you need to do in order to get to where you want to be. So in business, we know to be successful, to become wealthy, you need to do the right things in the right order for the level of the game that you're at, and then you have to implement it. And as I've explained to you, and perhaps I should put this little thing there again. That is then the 3%. The strategy is the 17%. And this then becomes the 80%. The problem is with this, the 80%. That is where the problem comes in. Because people do not have blueprints and they do not have the strategies in order to implement the blueprints. Okay, so the question now is, let's assume that I've got this machine. How will this thing help me in order to achieve my goal? So the question now is, how can I take all of this, in other words, the formula for riches, how can I apply this in order to take me from a level 1 to a level 7? In order to do that, I need to understand the formula, and the formula basically says it's my intent equals my surplus times the growth over the risk times the systems or the responsibility that I'm going to have in order to get that. That's to the power of. And how can I apply the accelerator? Now, by the way, if you really want to understand what it means, simply go to the Formula for Riches, the book that I've written, and there I'm going to explain it. For now, I want to make it very easy to show you how we're going to build the machine around this formula to drive us through the 7 levels of a business. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to start with the surplus. And the ideal is, I said that I'm going to start with 1 rand. But the ideal, the perfect situation is to apply for the level 1 and to change on a level 1, to change 0 into 1 rand or $1. Now that is going to give us an exponential explosion. It's like a big bang that happens in your business where you've got nothing. You've got an idea, you turn the idea into a thing, and now you have got the thing that you can go and sell. For example, this marker, it was an idea, then they turned it into a prototype, sell the prototyp became the thing, they turn it into a product, and now they're selling the product, and this helps me to teach you and show you what I want to show you on a whiteboard. For that reason, I'm willing to pay money for this thing because it's a tool that I can use in order to get my message across. So this is the big explosion that happens here. Now, you can start with 1 rand or with whatever. But in my case, let's assume that I've got 0. I just got an idea. And the idea was actually, if you really think about it, I saw a Facebook negative little post. And then I said, okay, what can I do to turn this into a positive? That was the idea. And now I have to manifest that idea into something. And at this stage, I think it may be worth 1 rand. Okay? Now, the next step then, in terms of the formula, will be this portion. How can I, on level 2, because this is the money making, the profit drivers, how can I take the 1 rand or $1 and turn that into 10? And that's all. So the moment that you turn that into 10, it means that you're going to get 1,000%. This is also called the leveraging. So how can I leverage myself, or how can I use the resources that I've got already? Because remember, the Wealth Creators strategy is the intelligent use of limited resources to go from where you are to where you want to be in the shortest possible time with the least amount of risk. So what limited resources do I have? Maybe I've got a skill. Maybe I can wash dishes. So I can make a deal for someone instead of them washing it. In other words, I'm prepared to leverage their time. I will do it for 10 rand. That's all. That's all. At this stage, you do not have to be clever. You do not have to just think, how can I take something and convert that without costing me a lot of money and make just 10 rand profit per year? So just 10 rand profit per year. Okay? And I'm sure that you'll agree with me that that will be possible. Now, the next portion is, now it's going to become a little bit more tricky, because at the level 2, our function is the profit drivers. There's basically 5 profit drivers that we can use in order to go from 1 to 10. As soon as we've got that in place, we are going to design and determine the processes and procedures that we follow, and then we're going to incorporate that through the machine into a system. So on a level 3, we want to automate this process so that we do not run around doing it over and over and over, so that we can start getting a system in order to be able to do it. So at the level 3, what we're going to do, our job now will be to take the 10 Rand and change that into 1,000 Rand. Okay, so what's the growth of 10 to 1,000? Well, that's going to give me an explosion of 10,000%. I hope that I've got it right, but it looks like 10,000%. Now, in the formula, if I want to turn 10 Rand into 1,000, it simply means that it's to the power of 3. So, as you can see, this is an exponential effect. The moment that I've got a system, my whole business will start to explode. It's that simple, right? So, but I need to have the system. Before I can get the system, I need to have the product. Before I need to have the product, I need to know what my market wants. I hope that you can see it's the right thing in the right order for the level of the game that we're at. Right, now we've got 1,000 Rand or $1,000. So what happens at level 4? At level 4, this machine is now built. Now we need to move to the people. We need to train people to do the work on our behalf because we do not want to spend the time to run this machine. And in order to do that, now we're going to use the structures, which happens at level 4. This is where that is going to happen. And now our job is to let people turn the 1,000 into 1 million. Right? And that is going to give us an exponential, as you can see, growth of 100,000%. Can you see, because of that, to the power and to the power of, that's going to happen. Now, how do I take 1,000 to 1 million? Well, 1,000 to the power of 2 equals 1 million, because it's 1,000 times 1,000. Right? So, and because we've got the system, now we can start duplicate this, and we can get different managers in order to run it for us, and then we're at our million. So, in fact, we've grew 1 Rand to 1 million in 1 year, which simply means that we're going to have 100 million%. Isn't that incredible? Right? And simply by following a formula and a system or the blueprint of the money-making machine. And the money-making machine blueprint, in order to move through this, I'm going to give you in the webinar. Now, how much time do you think it's going to take me, once I know, because I already know how to do this, to implement this in terms of my time? I'm going to hand this over to people that I've trained, and they're going to actually implement it. But there's still going to be a little bit of time that will be involved from my side. So I reckon that to get to this level will take me approximately 40 hours in total. So I want to move then as quickly as possible to level 5. And in the level 5, what I want to do is I want to say, okay, I'm prepared to spend 12 hours to manage this. So if I do want to do all of this in 1 year plus 40, gives me 52 hours. That's the total amount that I want to spend within this business, to design the business, to create the business, and to manage the business in the first year as the managing director of this business. And in total, if I divide 1 million divided by 52 hours, that simply means that my time will be worth something like 230 rands. Make it approximately 20,000 rand. Now, what happens at level 6? At level 6, I want to spend less time. Now, I already know that I'm going to spend 12 hours managing and 40 hours to build it. So I can for sure say that I'm going to spend only 12 hours next year. Let's assume it's next year, in order to make 1 million. And that simply means that now my time goes up to, 83,333 rands or dollars or per hour. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that what we want? We do not want to spend, of course, if you want to spend more and you want to make 160,000 rand, it simply means that you're going to have 2 million. It's really that simple. So you can leverage your time, because this is a to the power of and to the power of. Now, this is where it's going to get crazy. And this is at level 7. Because at level 7, I say that I will not spend more than 4 hours in my business in total, because now I'm the owner of the business. I've got CEOs that is running around, they give me feedback, and once a year I'm going to sit 2 hours in terms of the strategy, where I'm going to plan and tell them, listen, what do you plan for this business? I'm going to spend 1 hour per year maximum to manage this business, and I'm going to spend 1 hour to get the structures ready when I'm sitting with the auditors to make sure that everything is above board and that I'm paying the least amount of tax, and to incorporate it into my structure so that I can live life. And when I do that, my time goes up to 250,000 Rand per hour that I'm going to earn from an idea that is just an idea right now as we speak. Isn't that amazing? Now, here's the challenge. Do you think it's possible? Well, I can tell you that it's possible, because I'm earning in some of my business in excess of 700,000 per hour. Isn't that amazing? So I know that I've done it before. I know that I can do it because I've got the systems in place within the 40 hours. And that is going to be the challenge. In other words, to get your goal with less than 1 Rand, to get at least 100 million% growth on it, to spend less than 40 hours in order to do it, in 12 hours to manage it, so that in 1 year I'm going to operate at the level 5, and perhaps even for the next year then move it up to 83,000 or 250,000 Rand per hour. And that is how you design, and then how to build it. So in the next video, what I'm going to do, or in the next training, will actually be a webinar. I'm going to invite you. If you're not on the webinar and you want to listen and see exactly how I'm going to do the implementation of the 7 steps from 1 Rand to 1 million, and how I'm going to incorporate my money-making machine, I'm going to give you all of my blueprints. I'm going to give you all of my strategies that I'm going to use. In other words, up to that, I'm not going to give that to you, because it's simply, there is no ways that there will be enough time even to discuss one of them. The implementation, the tactical implementation of that. And that I'm going to do in the webinar. So if you're not on the webinar and you want to be, I'm going to ask Lara to include a little button there. And then also, if you haven't watched the previous 2 videos, the Amarilla story, where Enrico basically said that it is not possible to get to 100 million%. And then the previous one is in terms of the mindsets and what we need to do. Make sure that you watch those. And then I'm going to see you in the webinar, and you are absolutely going to love it. Now, what should you do right now? I think what you should do is, with a little bit of information that you've got, is to say, but in what business am I? And is it possible for me, in other words, then to take an idea, for you to take an idea and then to turn that idea into money? And what are the processes? What do you think will the processes be for you? From what you understand at the moment, it may be right, it may be wrong. From your understanding currently, what can you do? And start writing them down. And then when we get to the webinar, see how far you were right, and maybe that webinar can help you to take it literally to the next level. And I hope that that's going to help you to start your journey to do the same. And hopefully I'm going to give you like a mentoring where I'm going to show you exactly step by step, because I see that the biggest problem lies with the state. And if you can see what I do and how little time I spent on doing this, maybe that can be inspiration and motivation, so that you say, okay, but I should gain this knowledge so that I can do exactly the same. And just imagine what the outcome of that will be if you can also do this. So thanks again for your time. And then in the next training session, it's not going to be a training session like this. That's going to be a webinar. And the problem with the webinar is you have to be there, because I'm not going to do a replay. Please make sure that you've got a pen, that you can take notes, and you have to be present at that webinar. So I'll see you then, and thanks again for your time.